A Nefarious Nightmare contains themes that may be explicit or triggering for some. Specific warnings and disclaimers will be mentioned in the show notes. A Nefarious Nightmare assumes all parties that are mentioned in these cases to be innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. Listener discretion is strongly advised. You can help us grow the show by leaving us a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Or you can join our Patreon for lighthearted bonus content.
I'm Courtney.
And I'm Amanda. And this is a bonus episode for A Nefarious Nightmare.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to A Nefarious Nightmare. We have been kind of on hiatus for a little bit, but we did just end season 5, and we wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a bonus episode prior to season 6. I've got Amanda with me.
Hi.
So I know you recognize that voice. She was just telling me about like a dessert that she just had. Why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit about that?
It's a 7-layer brownie thingy. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they get 7 layers in a brownie, but it's like very thin. But it has like it's not chocolate. It has like a graham cracker bottom crust. And then it has some kind of like coconut topping. And then it has like butterscotch and then chocolate chips on top of it with like toasted coconut again.
Did you make this or?
No, I bought this at the Kroger.
Oh, man.
I usually never buy my desserts, but... I was walking by and it looked freaking delicious, and I might have eaten all 4 of them since Friday.
Hey, you know what? More power to you. I've been doing a lot of shopping at Kroger. I've been doing the grocery pickup, and real quick, negative shout out to Kroger, by the way, but we had a pickup order and we picked it up, and my husband was actually in the driver's seat. And the way they have it set up is if you look at like the numbers, they have the sign facing the right, but they have the number painted on the parking spot. So we always assume, well, if I see 1 on my left, that's the parking spot. So it's really confusing, but whatever. We've never had an issue. So we put in, the sign said 3, okay? The parking spot said 4, but I'm going to put 3 because I see 3. So we put in 3. This dude comes out and he's normally pretty unfriendly, but he came out and he's like, Courtney Fenner, and he goes, that's my wife. And the guy was like, all right, where do you want your groceries? And we're like, the back seat. And he goes, okay, well, looks like you're parked in 4. And like the way he said it was really rude. I was just like, it really made me mad.
You see, this is when you flip it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and reverse it.
That's very confusing. Usually they have it like where you pull up to the spot. It's like right in front of you.
Yeah. Nate and we're pretty low key. We don't like to act like Karens, but that guy really, really upset both of us.
If anything, he should have said it like, hey, I don't know if you realized.
Right.
You put in that you're in spot 4, but you're actually in spot 3 or vice versa. But
yeah, when we called,
say, correcting you, maybe, so it won't happen in the future. But
the way he corrected us, I'm trying to remember how exactly he did it because I was kind of shocked. But he did it in such a way that kind of took me aback, and Nate was like upset, and the man was like real sarcastic. He's like, "Okay, well, you have a nice day," and Nate's like, "You don't have a nice day." Shit. So we called, and the guy that answered the phone, he was so sweet, but he was the manager. And I was like, listen, I am not normally a Karen. I do believe in karma, and I'm not one that will normally call and complain about people. But that dude has been rude to us from day 1, and that was uncalled for. And well, I'm not handling that. And I was like, you need to talk to him. I'm not asking that you fire him. I'm not asking that you demote him, whatever. I'm just asking that you remind him that there's a I just clocked in way of treating people, and there's a I am not on the clock way of treating people. The guy was so kind. He was so upset. You could hear it in his voice that he was a little intimidated. he was kind of losing his train of thought, and he was stuttering a little bit. He goes, "I apologize, I have a stutter." And I was like, "Oh my God, no. And then I felt bad for calling and complaining. Because he was just very, like, you could tell he was getting really nervous and like didn't know how to handle this and didn't know what to do. Please, I'm like, listen, it's okay. I was like, it's not you. I hope you know that it is not you.
I'm just making you aware, because if it was my business and I was in charge, I wouldn't want my employees treating people like this. That's what I always say to people. I'm like, listen, like my parents owned businesses growing up. I was raised in the entrepreneurship.
Right.
And I say that to every business I call, which I don't call a lot. And it takes a lot for me to have to call and complain about something.
Yeah.
Usually, like your situation, like I would have called and complained.
Right.
But I always say, like, you know, if this was my store and I was in charge of it, I would want to know that this is happening.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I probably wouldn't have called if it was any other day, but it was just a particularly bad day. And I would have, like, any other day, I would have just been like, you know what, let it go. It's fine. He's probably just having a bad day. But he just caught us on a bad day. It was
But you said he's been like this before.
Yeah, but he's never been that rude. Like, he's always just like kind of blowing us off, like, yeah, whatever, it's you. This time he was just like, you do know that you're parked in da-da-da-da-da. It's just like, excuse me, mother. You know, so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Treat people like you want to be treated.
But yeah, that's that. And it just kind of, I was thinking about, oh, thanks. Now he's like, really?
That's why I told you.
If I'm allowed to.
Hey. And well, hey, now nobody will ever question whether we feed our cats or not. That's what was happening. My husband was feeding our 2 cats. Most of y'all probably don't know, or maybe y'all don't care, but recently I lost my cat Nemo. Passed away. We had to have him euthanized, unfortunately. He was not doing well. It's just been kind of a year, hasn't it, Amanda?
It has. It's been a weird season. It's been a weird year.
Yeah, it really has. But it's all good. It's all gonna get a lot better from here. But yeah, back to that whole thing. There's kind of a point that I wanted to make with that whole story about how, you know, we were mistreated. There's worse things in life that happen, but there's something that really resonated with me ever since, even before the True Crime Podcast Festival. Everybody was using the terminology engage with empathy. And that's really resonated with me. I use it at work. I've been teaching my daughter that. She, on her first day of school, or the second day of school, I think, she was talking about, like, you know, how she really liked everybody except for this one girl because she cried a lot.
Aww.
And I was like, well, baby, don't you cry a lot too, though, whenever mommy and daddy, like, drop you off at school? She was like, well, yeah. And I'm like, honey, you need to start engaging with empathy. It's something that I think that we should all be teaching our children. And I think it's something that should be taught whenever you have new hires at a job. I think that it expands further than the true crime arena. I think that it's something that we all need to learn. And that dude that pretty much made us feel like we were 2 inches tall was not engaging with empathy. Even if you have to mask, fine, but engage with empathy. Because what if it was you, you know?
He was at y'all's car for maybe, 2 minutes? He couldn't just put a smile on his face for that 2 minutes?
Right, exactly. I mean, if you want to go trash talk me to your other coworkers, fine. I won't be there to hear it. I don't care. But I didn't see... I mean, that's my argument. Like, which is it? Is it 3 or 4? You know what I mean? So...
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, I think you and I both worked in customer service settings.
Yeah.
And there are those days and those times where you have to put on just the fakest smile, and as soon as they turn their backs, you just drop it. Like, I've had days like that where I just I put a smile on for 10 seconds, unless that, somebody makes me mad and I'm in that mood.
Yeah.
It's going down. But
yeah. I admit my RBF has really been activated at work, but I mean, it's work. I don't care.
I'm sure most people's faces look like that.
I'm not here to please my coworkers. Whatever. If y'all are listening, though, thank you. I do want to address one thing real quick before we move on. Actually, there's a couple of things I'd like to address. The first thing I want to do, if you're okay with it, Amanda, is I want everybody to know something. I've been receiving a lot of messages, and I'm not annoyed. I appreciate everybody doing this, but to my knowledge, Amanda's not going anywhere.
No, I'm not.
Amanda, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about what is going on and why I'm getting some random messages.
Yo, nothing is going on with Nefarious. I just like to overload my plate.
Yeah.
It is what I do. It's what I'm known for. It's why I'm on so many PTA boards and city committees and volunteer programs. And I love podcasting. It is my time that I can sit around and talk to people I like and I love.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I love podcasting. And so am I crazy for doing a third podcast? I don't know if how many other...
You have a fourth podcast, honey.
You said we weren't doing it anymore.
We're gonna do it again at some point.
I don't care. Then I'll do 4. It's like it's to me it's totally fine. Like I have my days scheduled to a T. Now, nobody can be throwing extra stuff on me if it's not planned out. You guys at least give me a few days notice, right? Because my days are full.
I'm pretty good at giving you. I'm good at giving you notice about things.
You're great. You and I just know how to work together now. Yeah. I mean, we've been together for how many years?
Right. No, basically everybody, we're not divorcing.
No, we're not.
This isn't a custody battle.
I'm just adding more things to my plate and hopefully bringing you some more content. I mean,
Nefarious isn't going anywhere. We have done way too much and have gotten this far. It would be silly if something happened now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, nothing is happening. True Compass is not even true crime.
Actually, talk a little bit about True Compass.
It is more, and you and I do the same thing, but it is more of a podcast to give those statistics over crime and why it happens and how it happens, and trying to raise more awareness of how you can keep yourself safe and keep the people you love around you safe, because this world is freaking insane and nobody is safe.
Right.
And so True Compass is not, and everybody just keeps thinking it's just another true crime podcast. We're not, that's what you and I do. That's not what we're doing over there.
Right.
It has to do with true crime, but it's more about, I guess, how to try to prevent true crime.
So would you say it's kind of, okay, so not to compare at all. It's just the only way I can. So if you were to see like something was wrong, they have a podcast, which I love, Tiffany Reese. Please take us under your wing, Tiffany.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're listening, but just in case. But yeah, you have something was wrong, and then there's what came next.
Yeah,
that's a companion podcast, and then you also have something that is called Data Points. I think Tiffany's trying to roll out. That's another companion like episodes. Would you say that True Compass would pretty much? It's not exactly true crime, but it's more of a companion podcast to true crime podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
That is what I say. Will we talk about true crime? Yes, because they go hand in hand together, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we will talk true crime, but it's not exactly what we're doing here.
Right.
All my podcasts are a little bit of a different niche.
Oh yeah. I would say that we're very, very similar to Fandom Family Chats. Okay. We're a rewatch podcast, guys. Didn't you know? Which
if you want to listen to a podcast while you're in the car with your kids, then you can listen to Fandom Family Chats, and I won't cuss. I know, shocking.
But yeah, we just wanted to go ahead and clear that up before I got any more messages, because I promise you, nothing's happening. But
we're
not
Gucci.
To blame. We're good. Nothing. Not to blame or shame or anything. But when I get messages like that, it does stress me out a little bit, because it triggers me back to like the day when I'm like, nothing's happening. What's happening? What's going on? What do I not know? So guys, I love y'all. Thank you for your concern. There's nothing to be concerned about. We are not going anywhere.
Nope.
There have been bigger and much, 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 much worse things that have happened that was supposed to take us down, and it never did. So we've got way too many things going on. And I also
both very in this.
And I also want everybody to know that I am incredibly proud of Shay. for starting a podcast. I wish she had done this a long time ago. It's something that she's meant to do. So you guys have to go check it out whenever it finally airs. I just listened to the trailer today and it's cute. I love it.
Cute.
So you have the nice background, or not the background, the theme music, and yeah, it's gonna be a good one. So y'all go check it out.
We'll drop on different days, so you guys have different stuff to listen to.
Companion podcast to all true crime podcasts. And Shay knows her shit. She's gone to school for like the law thing, and Amanda knows her shit. She's been doing safety stuff for a long time, and the only thing I can say that I'll offer if y'all ever need it is I'm happy to give y'all some statistics that I know, because
absolutely.
One thing that I do want to kind of go ahead, and speaking of which, I want to kind of go ahead and tell everybody, I'm not going to make any guarantees, but you guys have heard me talk about Ministry Safe several times, right, Amanda?
Mm-hmm.
So not going to promise anything, but I will say that there is a 99% chance that there will be a bonus episode within the next month or two where I get to interview the founders of Ministry Safe, and you guys will get to meet her, and it's going to be great. So y'all please keep your ears out for that, because I'm so excited, and I'm very nervous because
I'm excited for this too, because I've been hearing all this stuff.
Yeah, Kim is amazing, but she's super intimidating, and I love her. She's goals. So I love Kim. She's amazing. So that's that. So there's my shout outs. I want to address a review real quick, and then we're going to move on to a recap.
We love our reviews, don't we?
We do. So here's the thing. We don't like to really address reviews because either they're phenomenal and it makes people sound like humble braggy whenever they bring up reviews. It doesn't, to me, it rubs me the wrong way. Even when we were doing it back in the beginning, it rubbed me kind of wrong. It was like, what are we doing? It just felt like, oh, look at what my podcast is doing. We got a review.
Yeah,
and then
I think it's different for the other people. Some people like it, some people don't.
Right. And then we've addressed negative reviews, and frankly, it just kind of didn't work out. We've learned that we're going to always pretty much ignore the negative reviews unless there's something constructive to it. Mm-hmm. However, there is one review that we got recently that I do want to address, because I'm going to hope, and I'm really hoping they listen, because I actually saw this and appreciated it, whereas like 2 years ago, when I saw a 4-star review and not a 5-star review, I would have been crying in a corner thinking that we were just done and dead and horrible. But like all things, we've grown. So this review is a 4-star review, and it says background music, and it's from somebody named Against Child Mutilation. And they said, love the podcast. One piece of constructive criticism. The background music is very distracting from the conversation/interviews. I want whoever made that review to know that I so appreciate it, more than you can even possibly know, because there have been complaints before about the background music, and the rebel in me wants to just be like, nope, I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to keep it going. The thing is, because of this review, I will keep the music going, but I am going to work to improve the volume levels. So guys, if y'all are going to leave reviews on anybody's podcast and you want to give actual constructive criticism, this is the way to do it. So whoever Against Child Mutilation is, thank you so much. Please reach out to me if you hear this, and I would love to send you a t-shirt. Really, really, truly appreciate that. I know it doesn't seem like much, but that's the kind of thing that we need, is constructive criticism, not somebody being an asshole.
We can only get better.
Yeah. And sometimes we need to kind of get that little kick in the ass to tell us, hey, you're kind of messing up on one thing or two things. Sometimes, I don't like unwarranted advice or anything like that. But if you're an avid podcast listener, like clearly this person is, and you're listening to us and you're like, you know what, I can love this podcast and still not like certain things, and I'm going to address it in a respectable way. That's all I could really ask, So whoever you are, thank you so much. Please, let me know who you are. I really do want to find out what your shirt size is and send you a t-shirt, if that's okay with you, whoever you are. So that's it. You have anything, Amanda?
I love seeing all the reviews.
Even the negative ones.
Even the negative ones, because you know what? It means people care enough to say something.
Yeah, the positive ones are sweet, and the negative ones, we just live rent free in their head, and that's
bad news is still good news.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I want to address the ads thing real quick. Somebody said something about like the horrific amount of ads, and I see that review on several podcasts, and I just need to say something. I'm not trying to blame Spreaker for anything, but Spreaker has this thing called optimized ads. And what they will do is whenever you sign on to Spreaker, they will go all the way back to your back catalog and they will add like 15 or 20 ads in the beginning. And I didn't realize this until just the other day. Guys, the one thing I can say about that is if you don't like the ads, just fast forward. Like we don't care. It's not that we're trying to pay the bills, as somebody tried to claim. That's not, if you had known how much we make off of these ads, you'd know that we're not trying to pay the bills with it. I mean, I have a full-time job, okay? And, the only kind of monetization that we're trying to really do is to give back to the podcast itself, like for improving purposes or to save up to help victims and survivors of crime. And that's what we've said from the very beginning. So that's all that there is to it. We're going to work on the ads, but please try to understand that you don't know what happens on the back end of podcasts sometimes, and one of those things happens to be the way that ads are put in. I've worked on the recent episodes where there's not so many, but I can't necessarily help what happens with the back catalog until I can go through and spend about 5 days and clean it up. So that's all I got to say about that. So, all right. So let's do the recap, because we just spent about 24 minutes of talking about not the recap.
What we're supposed to do.
Yeah, you're right. It's a bonus episode. So
Amanda, I want to talk about.
Do you want to start?
No, you start.
Why?
Because you're better about that. As long as I don't have a script, then I'll start stuttering and
We're not addressing another review right now, are we?
No,
we're not adept at speech. We speak with stilt. We're clearly speaking with a stilted. Anyway,
what does stilted mean?
Honestly, if you actually look at the wow, that's what that is. That's speaking stilted. No, there's a definition right before I found out that I'm on the autism spectrum. If you look at symptoms of autism, you'll notice that they say that they speak with a stilted speech and kind of monotone.
What does stilted mean, though?
Do what?
I don't know what stilted means.
I think it's kind of like robotic in a way. So,
I keep forgetting we're on a podcast, and I keep just chewing into the microphone.
It's a bonus episode. All right, so let's recap season 5. The reason why we want to recap season 5 is because we talked about a variety of different kinds of sex crimes. So we'll kind of go through, instead of going through each episode, we'll go through the phases to make life a little bit easier, because it was a 13-part series. So
that you did amazing on.
So I thought it came out okay. So with that, let's start with phase 1, sextortion. In the beginning, it was Ashlyn, Lexi, Paris, and then we heard from Tatum, who was in the beginning, or who was in the original Mind in the Beehive series. Yeah.
Season 2.
So what are the biggest takeaways that you got from phase 1, Amanda?
You know what? I was not too aware of sextortion before we started really diving into it.
Yeah.
I feel like I learned personally a lot this whole season of what it is, who it harms. Like, it's not just the whole AI thing.
Yeah.
Like
the deep fakes,
like the dark web. Like, of course I knew like dark web and all that kind of stuff, but just the extremes that people go to mentally harm somebody they don't even know. Like, it just boggles my mind. That's why I really loved that we touched on it. It was a really hard topic to talk about this season.
Very stressful.
Extremely stressful, really, like on the back end of it as well.
Yeah.
There was so much stress and things that only the ones who know about the case had to watch and see, and emails we got. I mean, this was a really difficult season.
The last email that we got from the perpetrator was the death threat. So fortunately, but also probably not anymore now that I'm talking about it. We haven't received any more emails from him. I'm wondering if
I wonder why.
Oh, maybe either it was a death threat that we read as a death threat and they were actually trying to say, okay, well, the website's going to die. Cool.
The whole black web. Is the whole black web going?
That would be great, dude. If you can do that, then you've pretty much, given us our goal. But at the same point, I personally, and that's one reason why I wanted to say that a lot of people don't understand what happens on the back end of these podcasts. I can tell you for sure that I spend about 40 hours a week just helping to produce an episode. It's not just reading from a script. It's not just finding the right music, which, by the way, the reason why I do use music is not just to help cover up background noise that I can't get rid of, but I'm one of those where I am very linear in the way I can describe things or receive things. If you were to tell me that you're pregnant, for example, I would need further context before I know to congratulate you or tell you that I'm sorry. If you were to tell me on a podcast that you're pregnant without me seeing your face, I'm going to need to hear some background music to tell me whether I should be happy for you or not. Even if you were like, I'm pregnant, I would need to know if that's a happy sigh or a sad sigh. You know what I mean?
I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, that was slightly off topic, but it did kind of have a part of my point. There were a lot of people within that case that were assuming that this was our day job. It's not. This is a hobby.
Yeah.
This is something that we do because it is fun to create and make things, but two, we really, really want to help people. Mm-hmm. We don't have savior complex, but I am somebody that has been a victim of a crime. Okay. And I've seen a lot of shit in my life, and I just want to do whatever I can to give back to whatever or whoever it is that was able to give me chance after chance after chance to continue to keep living. I want to be able to help others avoid what I've been through, or be able to protect themselves, or come up with an escape plan, something, right? So when people say things like, assume that this is a job, or assume that we're doing this to get plays or downloads, it's extremely hurtful. But how do you combat that and talk to these people, especially if they very unfortunately were one of the victims or a couple of the victims of the crime being perpetrated? I understand that they have a lot of things that they've been tackling, and they will project that onto other people. But sometimes you have to deal with that on the back end, and you're not sure what to do. So you have to be silent and move on and continue to help them in silence. So
yeah,
that was a really difficult case. I'm very, very thankful that Tatum brought it to our attention. I think that we've learned a lot of lessons with that case. What would you think?
I absolutely agree. I think we learned, that's what I was saying earlier, I think we learned a ton from that case. Yeah. Good things, bad things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
no more group chats.
No more group chats. It's not like it's just too hard to keep up with for the both of us.
Yeah.
Because we do have lives outside of podcasting. That's not our full-time gig. Like we have a platform to try to help people.
Yeah.
And we can only do the best we can do. I mean, we're not law enforcement.
We've never said that either. We're not law enforcement. We aren't doctors. We can assume, and I'm not afraid to admit that I will assume till I'm blue in the face whether somebody's a narcissist or not, because I've seen it firsthand. But I'm not going to sit there and even remotely pretend that I'm licensed to diagnose anybody. I'm also not licensed to capture somebody or apprehend somebody. What I can do is use my loud ass voice and speak up for those that need the perpetrator captured, and I will not stop. So that it is what it is. But with that, I mean, this isn't a job. This is something that we do because we want to help. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many more ways that we could say that and express that, but there it is. We just want to help, and that's purely it. So But yeah, sextortion, that's a very terrifying crime. My quick tip for everybody is keep your kids off the internet, period, point blank. Do not post pictures of your kids, no matter how old, no matter how young, because these perpetrators are a lot more advanced than you think they are, and they will, if they really want to, they will take those and deep fake them into photos that you do not ever want to even imagine. And we saw it happen. I mean, we didn't see the actual photos, but we've seen and heard about it happening. So any more takeaways from phase 1 before we continue? No. Okay. So in phase 2, we spoke with several victims of Adrian Vildusea from the original Minding the Beehive. Tell me what your takeaways are from that.
You know what? I'm really glad that we did this. Having back, not just Tatum, but Holly and Kitty, and what else do we have back? There's another one, right?
Holly, Kitty, and we also spoke with Katie. She was actually not in the original series, but she has been there from the very beginning advocating for Grace, which, if you guys remember from Minding the Beehive, Grace was part 2 of that entire series. She has not been active. I mean, she's been active behind the scenes, but Grace has had a lot of really cool life changes happening ever since, and I'm very happy for her. I'm not at liberty to say what, but just know that Grace is living her best life right now. But Katie was there, and she was talking from her own perspective and wanting to also really drive the point of empathy and ethics and advocacy home. And I'm so thankful that she was willing to participate in that.
Absolutely. I love that episode.
Also to hear from Holly and Kitty. Oh man, it was so good to hear from both of them and hear how well they're doing after the fact. Were there any highlights within both of those episodes that you can recall?
So I loved hearing, obviously, from all of them. I love hearing every interview that we do. I will say it was so nice to hear back from Holly and all the great things that is going on in her life right now.
Yeah.
But I really loved hearing back from Kitty. She
was clearly traumatized.
She was very, traumatized by the whole situation that she went through. And it's so good just to see them both thriving kind of after the situation. And I mean, it's not over yet. And that's where it sucks, is that it's not fully, is it ever fully over for them? For the victims?
I mean honestly, like, something was told to me the other day is like, it never gets better, but it does start to get easier. It's like grieving a death.
Yeah.
But what I'm hoping for is, while it gets easier and while their life continues to turn this like complete 180, I am also hoping and praying that Adrian Vildusea never sees the light of day again, because he will do something. He will screw up, and he's probably listening, because that's who he is. He likes to listen and learn about himself. I don't know if you knew that, but he loves to just, take notes about himself.
His favorite pastime.
We're gonna see the day come where he is locked up and won't nobody let him out. And that is a song from somebody that sang in the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm locked up, no, let me out. I don't remember. Anyway, and then we talked to Mama D. Oh my God.
Oh.
Yes. Mama
this
D.
was such a good episode.
Yes. Yeah, Mama D really brought it. She did everything that I only wished that she would do. And I knew she was going to kill it, but she brought that empathy and compassion and gave her mom-like advice and was pretty much there to be everybody's best friend in a moment where they needed it. And I got to tell you, like I said, we don't really care about like downloads and plays, but her episode actually got pretty much more downloads and plays than anybody else's for a couple of weeks right there. And that's a good thing, because that means people were actually listening and engaged with her.
Yeah. So, that's amazing.
Yeah. Did you have any valuable feedback that you took away from that episode?
I listened to so much. I will start getting them all confused.
Yeah.
That's my...
Well, we love you, Mama D. I hope you're listening.
Oh, so, yes.
And then we'll go ahead.
It won't be the last time we have her on for something.
No, it's not going to be the last time. Maybe we'll have her on for another Not So Nefarious Criminals that we may or may not keep going.
Yeah.
I think we should rebrand Not So Nefarious Criminals. Just a bit.
We gotta change it up a little bit, you know?
Yeah, it gets kind of old pretending that we're not there.
Yeah.
Trade secrets, guys. Yeah, we've been pretending that we don't realize we're on. Oh my god. Sidebar. Okay, this is the episode where we're gonna do that. It's the neurodivergent in me. But I don't know why this reminded me, but I've been ordering a lot from Taco Bell lately, and I just need to give everybody an insider tip. We all know and love and cherish the OG Mexican pizza.
No,
Okay?
I don't.
What? Oh my god. Okay. Anyway, so back in the day, those of us with actual taste really enjoyed the Mexican pizza from Taco Bell. They got rid of it for the longest time, and then they brought it back. But this time it was like they slapped it together and didn't care, right? I knew that something was different. After doing a little bit of research and experimenting, I found the formula to make the perfect OG Mexican pizza, guys. When you order it, all you have to do is ask them to put extra sauce that they use for that particular pizza and extra tomatoes. And you've got the
They're
OG.
scrimping.
Do what?
They're scrimping.
Oh yeah, very much so. And you'll get the OG shit. It's good. But I've been ordering that and the grilled cheese burrito with, we're not sponsored Taco Bell, but take a hint, we need to be. I've also been getting the grilled cheese burrito with extra rice and chicken, and it's so good. I need to get some.
You know, I love a Taco Bell, but I still order the same thing that I did when I was like 5 years old.
Which is?
A bean burrito with sour cream. I don't think it's changing. I've been ordering it. It's my favorite thing to eat. And I always go and I get one bean burrito with sour cream, and it fills me up, and a sweet tea. Oh, I don't. I just ate my 7-layer dessert bar. And for dinner, I made lemon artichoke chicken and rice.
That sounds good. If you would wrap it up in a burrito.
I have extra.
Can you drop ship it to me real fast?
We need like a drone.
Yeah.
Like one of those fancy drones that like goes a while. I can just
or
like
AI
send you
just needs to
stuff.
really get on the point and like just recognize how you make food and just make it for me real fast.
I don't think we're there yet.
We're getting scarily close. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on to phase 3 real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So phase 3, we talked about various different types of sex crimes that had occurred within various different people that had nothing to do with either phase 1 or phase 2. We wanted to be able to give them a platform and a voice. That one was arguably pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you start with Kim, pseudonym, where she talks about her stepfather had molested her, even like as an adult. Like if you're in a power, like what's the word? You've got kind of like a submissive versus dominant type of I can't come up with the word, but you've got that kind of relationship going. You got the dominant one, which would be the father figure, and I'm not talking about like dom subs or daddy baby whatever people are into. I'm just talking about in general. You've got the father figure, and then you've got the child. Kim was a full-grown adult but was still being treated like a child, and he had control over her, and he was absolutely using manipulation and gaslighting and love bombing and completely, talking her into a corner until she would like give in, but then he raped her. That was heartbreaking because it's completely, in her own words, ruined her life.
Yeah.
She has a hard time to this day maintaining relationships. She's a classic example of what somebody can go through after such trauma, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
And there was a lot of control and manipulation prior to the events that took place, too. It was like she was being groomed to just take it, and it's horrible. So we had Kim, and then next we had Ebony. And Ebony is from Australia, and she was victimized several times with various different forms of sexual abuse and assault. And even at one point was the subject of revenge porn. Ebony was very calm in the face of adversity in the way of like the way she was interviewed. you would expect her to break down, but it was almost like she was numb to it, and she was not wanting to like really talk about it, but she wanted to help somebody with her stories. And we also wanted to highlight that because we tend to once again think linear and think this is all happening in America. No, the reality is it's happening everywhere, and unfortunately every country, every city, every state, whatever, has different laws regarding sexual assault. What was your takeaway on that one? I know you had a lot.
You know what? I knew. So just coming off of what you said, because my mind went there. It happens all over the world. Mm-hmm. But seeing the statistics in that episode was a little bit mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I thought men would be higher.
Yeah.
And it because we've always been, we always focus on women.
Yeah.
And that's because that's primarily who I know who it happens to.
Yeah, statistically it's more women than men, but it does happen to men.
It does happen to men. I actually thought the men's number would be higher, to be honest. But it just puts it into more perspective of why women are scared to death to go walk down their own street at night. Mm-hmm. Like, I still do the run to my car and run back really fast when it's dark outside.
I still carry keys between my fingers.
I do that every day. Like, it's insane of like, I carry mace with me now.
Yeah. To
go walk the dog. Like,
and
I live in a suburban area. Like,
we should never feel like we have to live in a bubble and constantly be looking over our shoulder, but that's unfortunately the world we live in.
I hate it. I mean, it's not just being in this world, but raising children in this world.
Yeah, it's scary.
I think if I didn't have children, a lot of this stuff would not
phase
me or go through my mind. I think if I heard about it, it would phase me. But at the same time, I wouldn't be so looking at the maps, looking at the statistics, just being more aware of it.
Yeah.
Because if it's just me, it's me.
Right.
But I have kids I have to protect. Mm-hmm. So it's that was a big shock to me.
So one thing I want to kind of bring up real fast before we move on is so when you said that the statistics, you thought that they would be higher for men. Mm-hmm. The reason why those statistics are actually low, this is believed,
because they're not being reported.
Exactly. Men, no matter where you go, are predominantly raised up to be manly men. They are not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to express emotion. They're not allowed to, show their secrets or their vulnerability. They are always, for whatever reason, they are always raised to hide that because they don't want to be seen as a quote unquote wimp.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's also shockingly, but also not surprisingly, it's believed that the statistics for women are even higher than they're actually being reported, because there
I can
is
see that too. There's a lot of women who don't report.
Exactly. There is a stigma attached to reporting something like that. There's several stigmas, and one of them is the fact that you're afraid that nobody will believe you. And that's why it's being taught more and more to always believe. And if it turns out they're not telling you the truth, you can handle it later. It's better to believe them now and find out that it's not true later than to not believe them and something horrific happens.
And absolutely with children, if a child tells you something, I know we're bringing episodes back in, but if a child tells you that something is happening,
believe
something
them.
is happening.
Yeah.
Children do not make that up.
It is extremely rare.
Yes.
Where they will, but
there's still a reason why.
Where would they
watching something, hearing something?
Yeah. Where would they come up with that? It's natural. Women. Wow. Children have a natural curiosity about things, and they're going to find out whether you want them to or not. That's going to be one thing. Like, I know how I was as a child, and like I wanted to know what that thing was that my daddy was watching that I couldn't see. And I found out, whatever, that does happen, but we're not saying, what I'm basically saying is just because a kid knows what a boob is, for example, doesn't mean that they're being molested. But if a kid comes to you and says, hey, this is happening to me, you really got to pay attention, because why would they just say that? It is very rare that they're going to lie to you. It does happen, but it's extremely rare.
Yeah.
And that is like, I would say a 0.001 in a million chance. But it does happen.
But you should always.
Yeah, no matter what, you should believe them, no questions, because your first job as a parent or caregiver is to advocate for your child, period, and protect them. And, there's always reprimands and, whatever that can happen later if it does turn out they're lying. But it's better safe than sorry in that case. But yeah, a lot of people are afraid to report because there is a stigma attached to it. They're afraid of being seen as not believed because so many have told them that they were lying already. They're afraid of retaliation, and which a lot of the times they are threatened retaliation, whether it be, oh, I'll kill you or your mom, or I'll tell everybody in school that you wanted it, or it doesn't matter. Like, they are always threatened and blackmailed in some way, shape, or form. Or the perpetrator will be like, if you tell anybody, and this has happened before with some cases, if you tell anybody, I'm going to have to kill myself and it'll be your fault. I mean, that there's so many different kinds of stigmas attached to reporting these things, but that's why I believe, and so many others believe, that the statistics are actually inaccurate in the sense that they're actually higher than they're being reported. So,
yeah.
But yeah, looking at the statistics over the globe was pretty sobering, wasn't it? Jennifer's story. Oh, we listened to it all together on our way back to the True Crime Podcast Festival. What are your takeaways?
Well, it made the car ride really happy.
Yeah.
This one, listening to her interview, I don't know how many times my mouth kept dropping open.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of exactly what we were just talking about. Parents kind of shoving things off on when kids are telling them stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's sad. Jennifer's story really broke my heart. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it.
Yeah.
If the triggers are not going to bother you. That's another thing with this past season is we always have triggers on all of our episodes, but last season I feel like was a little bit more of a listen, we understand if you don't want to listen to this.
Yeah.
Like, very much, we don't just need the numbers or please listen to it. It is more of a listen at your own risk.
Yeah.
Type of thing, because there is a lot of triggers that I wouldn't even, you don't even know if you have a trigger sometimes until it's being talked about. And her story was just so, you don't hear about that every day.
No, you don't.
So hearing it just again puts into reality of the evil in this world.
Yeah, it's a hard listen for the mere fact that she was sexually assaulted by other children. She was a small child, sexually abused and assaulted by other children. Mm-hmm. It's not something that any parent wants to think about. It's not something that any parent wants to even fathom happening to their own child, or fathom that their child could be a perpetrator. But it is something that the reality is it does happen. Child on child sexual abuse is a thing. It's not a common thing, but it is a thing. And it's a very touchy episode for the fact that you don't want to you want to absolutely empathize with Jennifer.
Yeah.
And part of you wants to empathize with the perpetrator, because what happened to the perpetrator in that case, for them to immediately go and do that to another child. Now, granted, this child perpetrator, was what you would consider to be old enough to know better, but too young to understand it. I think he was like 13.
He's too young to know to do things that he did.
Right, but at the same time, like, basically he's old enough to know better.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you have that sense of empathy in you at that age where you know right from wrong. You know,
my kids who are younger would know the difference of doing that and not doing that.
But it makes you really want to know, so what was his family life like to cause him to do such a thing? You know what I mean?
I don't want to know at this point.
Right.
And I could only imagine.
I think that with that, it was such a touchy episode. It was so hard to listen to, but it was important because, unfortunately, we kind of have to be the bearer of bad news. That's what we do. We are the bearer of bad news. I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but we're letting you know this stuff does happen. And the one thing that does happen is child-on-child sexual assault. And it's hard to not empathize with that person in some way, not for what they did, but what happened to them.
What made them?
Yeah, what made them get to that point. But then you also have to, empathize with that 6-year-old little girl. It's such a confusing and conflicting, heartbreaking story.
Yeah,
that you don't know what to do. You don't know what to think. And as a parent, I can only imagine what you're thinking. At the same time, though, in my eyes, all of the children in that scenario were victims, but Jennifer was the one that was the target of all the victims. And her mom or whoever in her family should have been way more present and advocated, because wrong is wrong, period. So it's a hard thing to talk about, and it's hard to rationalize.
Mm-hmm.
But there it is. Any final takeaways from that?
Oh no.
Final episode was Rachel. She was one of Adrienne Vildoucet's latest victims.
Oh.
Very incredibly proud of her for coming forward and talking.
Too.
Hers was heartbreaking because he showed his classic signs of animal abuse and cruelty. Threatened her by threatening her dog. And, she was so afraid of him that she did not want to say her cat's names on record. That's pretty heartbreaking.
That is.
But I'm so incredibly proud of Rachel for coming forward, and I'm so glad I've made a friend out of her. And then after I can see that it's 9:00 on your face.
Sorry. No,
it's okay. We're almost done. But after the fact, everybody did their mic drop, and I got to tell you guys have to go listen to it. Just if for anything else, for that mic drop. What did you think of the mic drop? I got to know, because that thing was awesome.
You know what?
What?
I'm realizing as we're talking about this, I haven't listened to Rachel's completed.
Oh, girl.
And I need to.
You need to go listen to it.
I thought I had listened to all of them, but when you're talking about Rachel, I was like, I remember recording Rachel.
She was the finale. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that one yet. I need to go do that.
But have you ever listened to the mic drop? Because I know I sent it to you before.
Did you? I didn't hear it. Yes, I did. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I did. I sent you the
at least it felt like.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that was amazing.
The mic drop is super powerful. I love the mic drop because it's super powerful, because the victims get the last word.
Yeah.
So,
which should be the case.
Exactly. That's why I tell everybody, you gotta listen to the finale, because there's a mic drop. You gotta hear them. They are going to get the last word. I am going to allow them to do that. And I loved it because every time I would interview them, I'd be like, okay, do you have any final words for your perpetrator? If so, just go at it. And then I would just sit down. So it was fun. It was fun to see that look of satisfaction on their faces because they got it out.
I'm glad you let them do that.
Of course, I would do that for anybody. You want a mic drop of your own? If you guys are ever on our podcast going forward, I'm not going to sit there and be like, do you want a mic drop? But if you want a mic drop, just be like, hey, can I get a mic drop in there? Absolutely. Let's go. Let's do it. Whatever gives you closure and peace in that moment, I'm for it. Real fast before we conclude this episode, this bonus episode, real quick, I want to kind of let everybody know, and Amanda and I both have finished recording the first 4 episodes of season 6. And I'm going to kind of go ahead and give you a pre-trigger warning for the first 3 episodes, and then another trigger warning for the 4th one. I will actually give the trigger warning for the first 3 as kind of a teaser, and then I'll allow Amanda to give the trigger warning for the 4th.
Okay.
So I'll go first. The first 3 episodes are about one case. It is a multi-part case. It is surrounding the case of Mariah Lee Gardner. That case was brought to me by Holly Murphy, who you guys have heard from in both the Minding the Beehive series. Her case is heartbreaking. If you cannot handle hearing about the murder of a child then I would go ahead and just let y'all know to skip ahead 3 episodes. However, if you do like to listen to the psychology behind the predator, then I would encourage you to listen, because it is a fucking wild ride. That is why I decided that was going to be a 3-part episode and not just a 1-part. So, trigger warning, child murder. And Amanda, you go ahead and talk about 4.
Okay, 4 is going to be Leon Morales. He was murdered. I'll go ahead and say murdered. He was murdered in 1996. What was believed, what we know is true, to be a hate crime, because he was a gay man who lived in Central Texas, and that really wasn't okay for Brownwood, Texas at the time.
Right.
So he was murdered and his car was set on fire, and his niece Arlene has been really trying to get some kind of justice for him, which he deserves. His whole family deserves.
Yep.
She's amazing. We met her at the True Crime Podcast Festival. During the Pride Parade, we gave away a lot of swag with his name on it. So everybody was walking around that parade with their purple bags for Leon. We would love to get more information out there so his family, Arlene, and Leon can have justice and closure. I mean, something for this family.
Yeah, I would say that the triggers for this would be hate crimes.
Oh, yeah,
and discussion of white supremacists.
Went off on a tangent.
No, you're good. No, please go off on a tangent, because it needs to be talked about. Frankly, it does need to be talked about. But the trigger is, like, we will be talking about a white supremacist group and hate crimes against the LGBTQ plus community, as well as the fact that Leon Morales was Hispanic, living in central conservative Christian Texas at the time. So I'm sorry. He was murdered. I don't know what everybody else is going to believe, but I do know that he was murdered, and it had to have been a hate crime from everything I heard. And I'm really saddened and disappointed that there was not more coverage on this prior to when all of us got to know Arlene. So, and that's all I have. Do you have any final words? Do you want to sign us off with anything?
I will say our first 4 episodes are all based in Texas.
They are.
Do we have a theme this season?
No.
What are we doing?
So this season 6 is not going to be themed. We are not the podcast that will stick to a theme. We do usually talk about marginalized communities that have been deemed especially vulnerable, that have crimes happen to them either about that or whatever. But we also typically stick with like a sexual assault element, based off of the fact that sexual assault is extremely prevalent anyway, but also because this is not me tooting my own horn. I just happen to have a lot of knowledge about sexual assault statistics, which once again, I hope y'all get to hear that interview. I hope it happens, but you'll understand a lot more if that interview occurs that I talked to about in the beginning. But yeah, that's our podcast. We don't have a specific theme. We just like to talk about lesser known crimes and crimes against those deemed especially vulnerable.
And it just so happens Texas is very big.
Yeah. This season is going to be surrounding lesser known cases that don't get talked about enough. Brand new cases that happened just this year, which is basically Mariah's case, where there's going to be a lot of update companion type of episodes as well, such as we're going to be planning on talking to John Palmer again. So y'all will hear from them. I'm going to plan on getting a hold of the Landry family and kind of do a refresher / revisit episode on Jason Landry. We've got so many things planned, and once again, Nefarious Nightmare is not going anywhere. We've only got nowhere else to go but up, so that's it. I will pay some honor to our old school episodes, because we have celebrated over 100 episodes already, and we are over 2 years old now, and we are, not that Listen Notes really matters, but we are now in the top 1.5%.
Look at us. And we were on New and Noteworthy on Apple. So
we were. Now we're the last one on New and Noteworthy now. So that means that we've made our rounds But
Woohoo!
maybe we'll make it on Spotify. Who knows? We'll make it in the editorial. Hint, hint. Who knows?
Hint, hint, hint.
Maybe not. Maybe we'll be at CrimeCon. We don't know.
Ooh, maybe.
We'll manifest it into existence. But anyways, yeah, and to pay honor to our original episodes, obviously be vigilant for when you mess with the bees, you get the hive, but also
Don't be a dick.
and wear deodorant. You like what we did there, Amanda? It feels good to be old.
Feels good to be old.
It feels good to be old. I counted 15 gray hairs.
Did you really? I have an eyebrow gray hair.
Oh, I have them all in like...
I have some in my hair too, and I'm sorry, I'm too young for this. But I have this really long one in my eye. I'm too young for this.
Okay, bye guys.
Thank you for listening to A Nefarious Nightmare. Music used in the theme was originally by Ghost Stories Incorporated, remixed by Ryan RCX Murphy. Additional background music is provided by Epidemic Sound. A Nefarious Nightmare is scripted, researched, and produced by Courtney Fenner and Amanda Cronin. I'm Lainey Hobbs, and as always, be vigilant, for when you mess with the bees, you get the hive.